So there's two things in life that you can be assured of getting in this trade. One of those is man flu, which means that you're going to have a sofa day. The other is tendinitis or carpal tunnel. Yeah, anybody uses their hands gets that. I had tendinitis in my left arm, painful. Doesn't mean to say that can't use the other arm, but yeah, basically I'm left-handed. Yeah, so it's always in balance when you're working and you're pushing it with one arm constantly, one shoulder, one wrist. Yes, that does give way after a while, and you've got to pay attention to this. Having a balance in the way you work is even better, but at least with tendinitis you have the other arm to use, haven't you? So anyway, before we really kick off with things, I want to give Freightline TV a heads up, and quite interesting. This guy is doing a day in the life of a HGV mechanic technician, and he's covering some DAF stuff as well as Merc stuff and a little bit of trailers. Interesting, worth watching if you are in the trade and you want to learn stuff, because he is showing you stuff. So yeah, big heads up here. He's got to his first 1,000 subs, and I'm hoping some of you guys can scuttle over there and sub to him. Yeah, as you can see on his overalls, it says Rye, which is Riders, isn't it? Riders Hire Group. Yeah, so interesting. They're well-trained technicians. They're all pretty damn good. Just like us DAF guys. Yeah, we all have our stuff about us, don't we? Yeah, with our specific workshop, we have chimps, don't we? DAF chimps. So welcome back to the Trailerfitter's Toolbox, and yes, this definitely is the Trailerfitter's Toolbox, and this is my gun drawer. Yes, my air and battery gun drawer. Brought the battery gun back to life, the 1/2-inch drive one, because old Boney likes it, and so does the prepper guy. But what I want to talk today about is just a few bits and pieces and selection of things that I use when I use them, yeah, because I'm not teaching you how to do my job, I'm just showing you the insights I have in things. So air guns are a pain in the backside. As you can see here, I've put the trailer down on the airline leaks and it just gets in the way. This is why we like battery guns, isn't it, guys? Because you get that freedom of being able to go wherever you want with the battery gun, and the airlines don't cause any havoc like they do here. As you can see up at the top, you have the ride height valve. The piping is in the way. Okay, so doing this brake chamber here is just an inconvenience, isn't it? Or should we say a pain in the ass? Yeah, plus it leaks as well, you can hear this. Airlines are crap, yep, and you always need a compressor to run an air gun, don't you? And good airlines. Luckily that fitting was loose, yeah, but with an air gun you get a lot of power, don't you? Instant power, especially if you have a very good air gun, which is good for certain bolts, nuts and bolts. If you're not too worried about damaging threads, or you need the power to be able to pull the bolt out, okay, but there are times where you need finesse and less power so they won't rip out the threads. Like this bracket for a camshaft bush, it's a tapped bracket, which means if you snap the bolt off you're in trouble, yeah. Anyway, I've got wobble drive on here and a 3/8 battery gun, which is quite weak actually, whereas our prepper guy, he likes this 1/2-inch drive battery gun, and I do too for breakdowns, to be honest with you, because you can take off brake chambers with it, or sometimes you can, unless they've been on a long while. Now the Meritor and brake chambers are actually better. They do seem to last longer, which means there's a hassle trying to get them off. As you can see, prepper guy here has got it stuck. The nut is stuck on the thread and it is not going any further. This is the downside to some battery guns, okay. So what's he doing? He's winding this back up, and the next thing he'll do is find some type of solution. Yep, mainly it's the crap on the threads. So a little bit of heat there and a wire brush just to take the crap off the threads, and then that will come undone, no doubt. But I would have already stripped that off with an air gun. Yep. But never mind, he likes what he likes, I like what I like, and if this was on the side of a road or in a yard with no air power, then you wouldn't have a choice, would you? Okay, so yeah, Prepper guy's got that, no problem. Right then, airbag. This is just basically a stud with a nut on it, and it has a protrusion of thread through it. Okay, so could use heat on that, but there is a plastic pipe next to it, so when you're doing jobs, you always access what you have to do. The problem is the plastic pipe union is hard to get out unless you undo the nuts first. Okay, so choices is use a wobble and a semi-deep. Okay, semi-deeps are my go-to really, because they're a compromise between long and short sockets. So the wobble drive, universal drive, that snap-on, this is what I do with the wobble drive, yeah, and the semi-deep socket with an air gun. Powerful air gun that will rip off that nut. If it won't, it will strip the threads, and then I'll have to cut the knot off, but usually it comes undone with no problem, yeah. So there you go, wobble drive. The problem, the downside with the wobble drive adapter, and I will show you this now, is that if once it hasn't got a grip on nut, it just wobbles everywhere. Okay, this is why we have shallow ones, and they have their downsides. Okay, simply because you can only get a nut head on them. And yeah, with our matey here, old Boney, you can see here, used a shallow socket with the UJ or wobble drive, whatever you want to call it, yeah, with a small air gun to get into a certain recess. And this is what it's all about. It's accessing to get the power to turn things. Air guns obviously save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle, basically. But Boney had to work it out, because he did actually use the longer air gun first of all, and it wouldn't fit in, yeah. The more of an angle on the socket, the less power you have. Yes, as you can see this, if that was straight, that would have come straight off. Longer the socket on the adapter, the more wobble you're going to get, and more loss of power as well. Okay, so I compromise with it. It's actually quite a long piece of equipment here. Okay, long sockets at the right time, semi-deeps at other times, yeah. But as I've already shown you, not the best. Okay, now these are actually really good, but you can only get bolt heads with them. You cannot get something that has a protrusion of thread, but they work really well. You see here I can get an angle to get past the cam bush. Okay, so that's pretty good. And as I said before, these cam shaft bushes, the bolt threads are into the bracket, so if you screw them up or you break the bolt, it's more work, yeah. Usually I'll start these off with a spanner, then undo them with a 3/8 battery gun, because it will not rip the thread. Okay, if I used a 1/2-inch drive air gun, it would do. So engineers are not very kind to fitters, because they always seem to design things where we can't access nuts and bolts very well. Okay, like I said, I'll start things off with spanners, and then undo them with something like this. And Boney has got this wrong, because he can't get the air gun into that area at all. Yep, so he's going to have to go and find something else to do the job with, yeah, which is unfortunate, because that air gun would have ripped those bolts out really quickly, yeah. Now again, onto the battery gun. This one, the 3/8 one, does not do things up very tight, which means it's not going to snap M8 threaded bolts straight away. On the other hand, okay, with access to bolts, what I have here is M16 thread, which is a 24mm nut, and I've used a 3/4 with an extension on it, or an adapter should I say, just to give myself that little bit of extra so I can get past the bracket, as you can see there, and not have the air gun jammed up on something. Now, instead of buying a long 32mm socket, it's just using a 3/4 with an adapter in it. Yep, and Chimp is really lucky here, because sometimes they do not come out. Now, airbags, the bottom base. Okay, this is a ROR one, and it's actually quite a low drop. You can see how far it is to the floor with the air gun. Yeah, and even using a not deep socket, and I can't lift the trailer up at this point. Okay, this is quite a hard thing, getting the air gun jammed on the floor, and I'm pretty sure some of you already done this with different tools. You've taken out something so far and realised you can't get the tool out, yeah? Whereas Chimp here, on a different type of axle system, yeah, is using a long socket, plenty of space, yeah? It's just the way things go. From Rubrio and Rockwell, okay, to BPW or from Merck or whatever, yeah, they all have their own little quirks about them, and we have to adapt ourselves to get around the jobs, especially when they are repetitive. Yep, so you can see the air gun is actually just about missing the floor there. Lucky, huh? Right, so slack adjuster, cam bushes, and brake chamber. Well, actually, there's 4 slack adjusters to do. A lot of tools in the box, isn't there? There always are more tools, and you have to put them away, don't you? Now, a little lesson here, guys. This is a sumo lift, okay? When you're lifting something, bend your knees, straighten your back, look upwards, and lift up. Yep. And there we go, championship weightlifting. Yep, a quick snatch and a clean there, and away we go.